Ryan Neiman, Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM, AM 630. WMAL.
8:07 on WMAL. Anytime there's news about the health care law, Obamacare, whatever you want to call it, I always say, it's time to call Betsey McCaughey, see if she can help us get through what exactly happened. And the former Lieutenant Governor of New York and a health care expert, author of the book Obama Health Law, What It Says and How to Overturn It, joins us now with the Morning Majority. Betsey, good morning.
Good morning, and I've got the law right here on my desk, that 2,700-page monster. And right in there on page 710 is the so-called Class Act, which was supposed to offer long-term care coverage, something Medicare doesn't offer, if you need to stay in a nursing home or have other long-term care when you're elderly. And they were going to take money out of workers' paychecks. It was a voluntary system. Mm-hmm. And then when the workers got old, they could make claims against this insurance. But everyone warned the administration from the beginning, long before the Obama health law was passed, that this was a house of cards, that the system wouldn't work, the money wouldn't be there when the workers went to make their claims.
Why was that, or why is that the case? Because most people who are healthy right now aren't thinking about being in a nursing home and don't want...
Exactly. Yeah. Long-term care insurance has always been a really tough sell. But nevertheless, the administration went ahead with it and put it into the law, and there was a reason. And that's what came out later. It turns out that this provision was really a gimmick to make the Obama health law overall look as if it was paid for. Because think about it. When the Congressional Budget Office, that federal agency, tells lawmakers, well, this law is paid for or this law isn't paid for, what they do is they look at how much money is going to go in over the first 10 years and how much money is going to go out. So with this particular provision, the Class Act, the premiums were going to come in during the first 10 years, mm-hmm. but the payouts weren't going to happen till later. So this was a gimmick to make it look like the Obama health law paid for itself. But now that it's being scrapped as unworkable, the super committee and other folks in Washington who are responsible for the future of this nation's finances are going to have to really face the facts that the Obama health law is blowing a hole in the federal budget.
So the administration decided not to go forward with this. They said it was unworkable fiscally. And then the CBO came out and said, we're going to count this as no impact on the deficit, so go ahead and repeal it, right?
They really took another fall for the president on that one. But the fact is that this is the second time now, who's counting, of course, but this is the second time that the Obama health law has proved unworkable. When those first provisions went into effect last year, 1,472 companies and unions had to stand in line and get waivers. Mm-hmm. The lucky ones.
Does the actual Class Act need to be repealed as a separate piece of legislation?
Well, my view is that it does. It's a loaded gun sitting on the table. A future administration could come along and say, well, let's tweak this and make it mandatory.
And so why, if the administration stopped this program because they said it was fiscally unworkable, does the president now say that he would veto a repeal effort?
Well, that's a very good question. The fact is that the administration should not veto it because it shouldn't be left to the administration what parts of a law are enforced or not enforced. The executive branch's job is to implement the law. It's Congress's job to determine what the law is.
All right, let me make this clear. Do we lose any money off of this? Because, as you said, it would be for healthy people paying into it, and then they would get the benefits when they needed to go into a nursing home. So there was no payout ever for these services. No payout. Nothing has happened with this. It will not be put into effect. But when it was in the health law, it was used as a gimmick to make the overall health law look as if it's paid for, because this Congressional Budget Office only, quote, scores things or evaluates the fiscal impact of things for the first 10 years. And this was front-loaded with premiums coming in. So the overarching message from this failure is that some of the things that the Obama administration and the Democrats said were going to happen with this health care bill really couldn't happen, as Republicans said it was not feasible, and it's just a big shell game of how they're moving around money, and ultimately we're not going to see a lot of the benefits that Democrats said we were going to from the health care law. Well, and there's more to come. For example, many people have already suggested that those state insurance exchanges
that are supposed to go into effect in 2014 are not going to happen.
Wow.
They're just not going to happen?
Well, certainly the federal government appears to be behind their timetable. They're supposed to set up insurance exchanges in states that are refusing to or delaying putting state insurance exchanges into effect. So they're way behind on that timetable. And, of course, we are in legal limbo as a nation because 28 states are challenging the constitutionality of this law. We're headed for a constitutional showdown in the U.S. Supreme Court with a decision by June of 2012.
As somebody who knows a lot about healthcare policy, have you been surprised at how few facts have been marshaled against Mitt Romney in the fight for the GOP nomination? I don't know if you've watched any of the debates, but
of course I have.
Yeah, very little info about Obamacare and Romneycare coming to light during those debates.
Very little, although I am confident that any of the Republican candidates will do whatever is needed to repeal the Obama health law, provided there's a sufficient majority in the Senate to do so.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah. Well, overall, when you look at the system that we have right now and where the path that we're on, is it what you expected when this bill passed in 2009 or 2010, whatever the actual date was that it went through?
Well, I, like many, I was skeptical about this law because, let's face it, 2,700 pages, most people had not read it. Almost no one in Congress had read it before voting on it. The Congress should have taken this 2,700-page law when it was still a bill, put it in the paper shredder, and given the American people a 20-page bill in plain, honest English that lawmakers would read before they voted on it.
Let me ask you a question a lot of my Democratic friends ask me. What would happen to our healthcare system, the price for insurance, and just the overall healthcare system if Obamacare was repealed tomorrow?
Well, there are many important initiatives waiting in Congress to be introduced and voted on. Some have been introduced that will substantially reduce the cost of health care. Let me give you an example. And in fact, I've written a 20-page bill that includes many of them. Tort reform, providing block grants to the states for medical courts. That will relieve a lot of the upward pressure on overuse of care by defensive medicine, doctors practicing defensive medicine. Allow people to buy health insurance across state lines. That will free consumers from the very high prices of insurance in states with lots of mandates like Massachusetts and New York.
But those are things that would have to pass. But I mean, if it was repealed, healthcare would still exist, and there probably wouldn't be a big. Would there be a big change at all?
Fortunately, it would be a very positive change because one thing could be sure, and that is doctors would be able to make decisions for their patients unencumbered by the bureaucrats in Washington who have a Washington knows best mentality. The most dangerous part of this law is Section 1311, which for the first time in history empowers the federal government to dictate how your doctor treats privately insured patients.
All right, Betsy, great to have you on as always. We always appreciate you